Good morning, welcome to Headline Focus, here live on Core Politics with me, Rob Double. It is Wednesday the 11th of July 2018, let's have a look at what's making the political news today. And to start with, what shall Donald Trump, the President of the United States, be saying at the NATO summit? He's landed, or is currently somewhere in the skies nearest to the NATO summit, which is taking place in Brussels. It's a once every 2-year event, very, very important in the context of what's been happening in terms of NATO and discussions, particularly from the United States in the White House around NATO. Now, the concerns are, because of Donald Trump's noted criticism of the contributions of other NATO states regarding budgets, basically saying that the US is disproportionately paying for NATO, even though obviously all the member states of NATO are benefiting from it. The threats, or the concern, is that President Trump will threaten to withdraw US troops from Europe as a result of the criticism of NATO, and as a result really start to undermine the unified Western approach to particularly containing Russian aggression in the eastern states. And that will obviously get eastern states very, very concerned as well. The second and possibly more significant aspect is that President Trump might actually start question the idea of the Article 5 of the NATO's founding treaty. Now that article outlines that if one member state is attacked, all the other member states are attacked. It's considered in that way, and the result is being if you attack one member state of NATO, you are effectively attacking all member states of NATO, and all of those member states will come to the defence of that one state. So in other words, you mess with one member state, you mess with the whole of NATO. Serious crisis for the organisation. If President Trump says, well, unless the budget's sorted out, unless people want to pay for it, the US will not unilaterally, or rather completely agree to come to the defence of any other nation state. That could be a real crisis for the organisation, as obviously as a superpower, military superpower, the United States is an incredibly influential and important member of the organisation. Now, is it an empty threat, though? Well, NATO is a treaty organisation and was taken by the nation of the United States in terms of this. In terms of the obligation, it's a treaty-based obligation. And what does that mean? That means that it's not something that the president can easily change by executive, basically making by executive orders. It's something which would require an act of Congress, or that's at least the commentary that's coming through this morning in terms of what's the practicalities of what he might say today at the summits. Now, in terms of the agenda, the two main events which are happening are conversations about burden sharing, which is basically about the budget commitments, and also the threats of Russia and North Korea. Now, in terms of the UK, what the UK position has been made very clear. We do cover our 2% of GDP commitment to NATO, so we're one of the states which is making the contribution that is required, and at least President Trump is certainly pushing all member states to be doing. And there's also an announcement today, it's been trailed actually before, but Britain is doubling its troop presence in Afghanistan to 1,100 troops as part of NATO's training mission to restore peace and security. So that's the idea, that's very much in training capacity rather than a fighting capacity to try and maintain security. Significant, though, and comes obviously at the time of deep diplomatic pressure in terms of the idea of security in Europe. Now, Theresa May, looking at the next story, is not out of the woods yet. Two more Tory resignations. Two vice chairs of the Conservative Party quit their posts yesterday in opposition to the Chequers plan that was announced in the last few days. The two people here are Ben Bradley and Maria Caulfield, as you can see in the photo, warned that the Prime Minister's plans for close links with Europe after Brexit risked handing the keys to Downing Street to Jeremy Corbyn. Now, just to have a look at them separately from Maria Caulfield, she quoted as saying, this policy will be bad for our country and bad for the party. The direct consequences of that will be Prime Minister calling. Ben Bradley saying that Chequers would damage UK opportunities to develop global trade and be an outward-looking nation in control of our own destiny following Brexit. The problem with Ben Bradley, however, and many journalists have picked this up, is that actually what he tweeted on Thursday, which was, whilst everyone's getting very excited about Chequers tomorrow, the truth is PM has been consistent with her Brexit wish list from day one, control of money, borders and laws. We should support her and get behind her and deliver precisely those things. So there's been a bit of a change of heart since Thursday, and now the question is for Ben Bradley, why? What's the reason? And why such a swift decision to change his opinion? One more story then. Now, if you haven't noticed, England might be playing in the semi-finals of a World Cup today. Now, Labour have got two Opposition Day debates happening this afternoon in the Commons. They're trying to dock the Department of Work and Pensions Secretary Esther McVeigh's pay for her handling of the Universal Credit and Universal Credit reports and stuff like that. That was in the news last week, if you remember. And the second one is a debate on recognising the importance contribution of the defence industry to the UK. Now, unity is expected on this. Basically, everyone's going to agree to it. So the government will not oppose the motion. The reports are that this is partly because everyone wants to get out of Westminster and get away for 7 o'clock for the kick-off of England and Croatia in the semi-finals. Everyone in the Conservative Party, in terms of MPs, was invited to watch the match on a big screen in 10 Downing Street. Interesting, though, the response of Henry Smith, who's an MP, saying on Twitter, "Seeing as the Prime Minister isn't bringing Brexit home, I'm concerned attending would be a bad omen for football coming home. I'll pass." Now, that obviously was picked up on Twitter, and indeed some responses, even from the Chief Whip, suggesting that he might want to give his invitation to one of his constituents instead. Sally Bercow, the Speaker's wife, followed up by saying, well, if there's a spare space going, I'm sure we'll be delighted to come. But certainly, Commons is wrapping up for football, as well as, I think, pretty much everyone else in the UK and certainly in England. That's pretty much it for today. You're up to date. Don't forget you can find all the latest on what we're doing here on Core Politics on our Facebook page and Twitter right here. Join us in a conversation if you want to have a chat about anything we've covered today. We'd be delighted to hear from you. But from me and all the team here at Core London, see you tomorrow morning, round about 9 o'clock.